What up, people? It's your boy, the host with the most. I do not brag or boast, and I'm coming to you guys live from coast to coast. It's your boy. I'm Krista Don One. Welcome to another fabulous rendition of Too Early for. Oh, whoa! Based on a true story podcast. It's your host, your moderator. How y'all living? I'm living swell. Feel free to hit the subscription button, the notification bell. Share this live with your friends, family, as well as your followers. Let's get this YouTube channel lit in the YouTube algorithm. Can I be heard? Yes, I can be heard. I can definitely be heard. All right. Got all that stuff on out of the way. Let's begin today's episode. All right. So, we're going to be talking about several topics. I just got through watching some videos concerning this first topic I'm going to talk about. To Need to Know podcast. If you're not familiar with it, it's like a guy that used to work for the Joe Budden podcast went on, did his own thing, and he created Need to Know podcast. I've been subscribed to them for like almost 2 years. They've been struggling, particularly this last year. I've been noticing that the views are down. And basically their final episode, final for now, they talked about how, it's just hard out here to be a pimp, particularly in these podcast streets. First and foremost, when podcast was on a rise, I even said back then it was already an oversaturated market because, everyone had a podcast. Your mom had a podcast, your father had a podcast, your grandmama had a podcast, your long lost distant cousin got a podcast, your neighbor got a podcast. Everybody had a podcast. And, even back then it was already oversaturated. But I watched DJ Academics talk about how, well, he was mainly focusing on hip hop podcasters are struggling, and he listed a lot of reasons why a lot of hip hop podcasters are closing their doors. But with Need to Know, basically they talked about how, they came to this decision, they came to this conclusion, they can no longer financially continue doing it. Okay, they was making six figures, maybe a lot of money to a lot of people, but to do a podcast, to have a production team, to have guests lined up, six figures is really not a lot of money, particularly if you're trying to be on that grand scale of things. And I remember Joe Budden talking about this, how, in podcasting, people got distracted on, the ad revenue that they can collect by doing episodes, and people were more focused on what Spotify was giving and iTunes and things of that nature, and the ads playing alongside the vocal part of the podcast. Everyone was focusing and locked in. Thanks for the thumbs up. Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Sheep? How you doing? So everyone was focused on that, and they were not focused on the whole thing. Like, it takes a lot of time and money to manage a very successful podcast. And you can do this at your own leisure, but I dare any one of you guys to go to iTunes or go to Spotify and take a grand look-see on what podcasts are popping. If you look at the top 10 lists, you got Joe Budden up there, in no particular order. Joe Budden, Joe Rogan, they're going to be the first two. And you're going to have a DJ Academics. But you're going to start seeing podcasts that you'll be saying to yourself, like, wow, I didn't even know you could make a podcast into that. Normally it's political podcasts like Candace Owens. It's like money, how to make extra, how to manage your money or how to make extra money. It's people that you have never even heard before in your whole entire life. Okay, and murder mystery podcasts is that they're on a rise. They were a couple of years ago. I haven't looked at iTunes and Spotify recently, but the last time I looked at it, that's pretty much the criteria of what podcasts are popping. And every month it's always changed, but the names stay the same. Okay. And don't forget Gilly and Wallow, $1 million worth of game. But nevertheless, everybody's been taking a hit, and everyone focusing on, well, the real reason why these podcasts are struggling is because, look at the economy. Everybody ain't got it like that. Everybody can't go to your Patreon, and everybody can't pay for exclusive content. Okay, the economy, and I think that's a bunch of poppy poop, because I don't know if anyone's been paying attention, but Netflix just bought HBO Max and Warner Brothers for to the tune of $72 billion. Now, if y'all don't think them acquiring HBO Max and Warner Brothers is not going to affect your bottom line, it's not going to affect your pockets, I don't know where you been. Because if you think Netflix is going to just spend all that money and keep the subscription price where it is, and Netflix is known for increasing their prices. They've been increasing their prices. And what's the number one complaint that everyone talks about when they're talking about Netflix? Yeah, you're right. True. The number one thing everyone complains about Netflix is they don't have enough content. But Netflix has the most subscribers than all other streaming services apps. Do y'all know that? People complain that Netflix doesn't have enough content, but they continue to subscribe and support and line Netflix pockets so they can acquire big things like this. Now, if y'all don't think that Netflix is going to go up in the next couple of months, you're crazy. If an if was a fifth, we will all get drunk. They are going to increase the prices. How much? I don't know. But I think it's going to be a questionable price. People are going to have to make decisions. Either we keep Netflix or we get rid of two streaming services app. Maybe we don't subscribe to Peacock. Maybe we don't subscribe to Paramount Plus these particular months. And people are just going to be canceling and subscribing. They're going to see their favorite programming, and then they're going to cancel. And when their favorite programming is gone for the year, they're going to unsubscribe. And when the new season starts, they'll subscribe. And streaming services are already in tune with that, saying that if you unsubscribe to them, you'll have to pay a penalty where, hey, you won't be able to subscribe in the next 6 months or the next year. I've seen a couple of streaming services that are set up that way. So let's stop with the theatrics of, well, it's hard out here. The economy. When Netflix purchased HBO Max and Warner Brothers for $72 billion, you don't think that's a good example? Okay, we'll move to another example. All right, thanks for the thumbs up. We'll move to another example. You're not happy with that example? Cool, we'll move to another example. I was watching, these content creators are popping on YouTube about the amount of money people find themselves in financial debt by financing exotic cars or just financing cars entirely. There was this lady who's in financial debt because she purchased a 1982 Oldsmobile at 22.3 interest rate. And she's paying well over $1,000 for this particular car, which is ridiculous. You can find that car in someone's yard. You can go on Facebook Live and take your chances there. You can drive up and down the street. I'm pretty sure someone's got a for sale sign for a 1983 Oldsmobile or 89 Oldsmobile. They don't even make Oldsmobiles no more. That's the kicker to all this. All right. But the guy did a content and he talked about how people are financially putting themselves in difficult situations by trying to finance these luxury SUVs and these luxury cars, and they're willing to pay $1,000, $2,000, in some cases $6,000 a month for these cars. But then y'all sit up here and tell me, well, it's the economy. You know, everybody ain't got it like that, Chris. Everybody can't support everyone's Patreon. Everybody can't support these podcasts and their memberships and things of that nature. Okay, but you got money to put yourself in financial debt in a car that you're never going to see yourself get out of. And the only way you're going to get yourself out of this if you pay it off, which good luck with that. The car will probably be broken down before you even make the final payment in some cases. Or you're going to have the bright idea to trade yourself out of a car into another car that's got even more, that's going to put you in further financial debt. Okay? Good luck with that. All right? But hey, y'all, people ain't got it like that. Chris, it's the crisis. Everyone ain't got it like that. Have you been checking the news, guy? Everybody's struggling, guy. It's hard to find jobs out here. People are struggling. They don't have time for all this other stuff. Okay, cool. We'll move to another example. If you don't like the two examples I just listed, fine. You got this girl. That's the reason why I told the first story. She was going to purchase a G-Wagon. She had, her credit score was not good, but she had saved $100K from her proceeds. She was very cryptic about it, but you can tell she does OnlyFans. So apparently she must have had a good couple of years or a good couple of months, however OnlyFans, however you get the money. She got $100K. She wants a G-Wagon. She was willing to put down $100K for a G-Wagon and finance the rest of it. Meanwhile, she lives with her mom, so she doesn't pay rent. Her credit score is not great. It's not good. And even the car dealer that was brokering this deal was saying, like, hey, shouldn't you put $100K and shouldn't you take your $100K and invest it in a house? Which, by the way, the housing market is all effed up. And I kept telling people, quit putting yourself into debt. Remember a couple of years ago, the housing boom? Everybody was buying a house. Oh, man, I got to get a house, Well, why are you getting a house? Well, because my grandmama got a house and my next door neighbor got a house, and, houses are the thing. It's affordable to get a house loan, okay? Those same people that was telling you that hook, line, sinker scam, they're trying to get out of their houses. That was 2 years ago. They're trying to get out. Thanks for the thumbs up. They're trying to get out of their houses because their houses is just a mausoleum of financial debt. And they're going to be struggling to get out of that house. So guess what's going to happen? These houses, they're going to have to lower their expectation and sell these houses almost dirt cheap just to get out from under. And they're not going to be completely out from under. But that's a completely different story. Back to so she got $100K from OnlyFans. She was very cryptic, but you could tell she does OnlyFans. And she's putting it into a G-Wagon. She doesn't rent. She lives with her mom. She just got to have the G-Wagon. But you let it be told by someone else, hey, man, it's the economy. The economy is struggling. People can't find jobs, and it's hard to make ends meet. And look, I know something about people. You guys would support anything, no matter how much it is, no matter what steps you have to take, no matter what you have to do, if you fuck with it. If you fuck with it, you guys will go to the extent of whatever you got to do to continue to fuck with it. And with podcasting, first of all, it's an oversaturated market. I get all that. But generally, a lot of these podcasts, they have the same topics. They have the same guests. They rotate guests from one podcast show to another podcast show. I think that's ridiculous. But nevertheless, no one's thinking outside the box. If you have a podcast, you just regurgitate topics that you see on social media. You regurgitate guests that from another podcast, like Joy Taylor, who got fired by Fox Sports 1. She was doing a car wash on podcasting. She was going from one podcast to another podcast because these podcasters are paying Joy Taylor for her time. You dig what I'm saying? So the biggest thing Joy Taylor could talk about is her being fired from Fox Sports 1. And she was going on a lot of these relationship podcasts. And if you know Joy Taylor, she's not an expert in relationships. She's been in 2 marriages, been in one relationship, none of them were successful. But that's neither here nor there. But that's what podcasting is doing now. They're not creating trends, they're just following trends. And a lot of people look at it like this. Okay, if this podcast is closing its doors, cool. I'll just subscribe to another podcast because, I wasn't really fucking with this podcast anyway, because the only reason I was listening to them or watching them because of the topics. I like the topics that they were talking about and the guests that they had. But guess what? I can get that anywhere else from any other podcast. And that's why a lot of these podcasters are struggling on their account. But there are some podcasters that had to close their doors because they could no longer keep the upkeep on maintaining a podcast. Because at the end of the day, you can do so much. You can upload episodes every single day. You could upload clips every single day. And people will watch them. People will watch the clips, but nobody would want to. But they're not going to take the extra effort into subscribing or hitting the like button or whatever, because you guys look at it as, hey, if I subscribe to it, then that means I will see more of these episodes. Yeah, you like the episodes in the beginning. Shouldn't you subscribe, support the content creator if you like their content? Isn't that how it works? It's transitional. Like, they're gonna create content that you like, but they expect you to at least subscribe. If you want to go far and beyond, I don't think it's far and beyond, but to a lot of you guys, it's far and beyond. We're asking too much for you to hit the like button and to share it. But a lot of you guys look at that as, hey man, that's too much work. I'll subscribe, but I'm not doing all the other stuff, even though they're like inches apart from one another. But hey, that's neither here nor there, whatever, But it's like this. It's like the consumers, you guys pick and choose who you fuck with, who you don't fuck with. And the people that you don't fuck with, you listen to a couple of their clips, you watch some of the episodes, but you don't even take the initiative to even subscribe. What's the worst crime, what's the diabolical thing? You don't like them, but you continue to watch them, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm not going to waste my time, waste my energy, or waste my breath to someone, or to something that I don't support. I tend to, stay away from it. Candace Owens is a perfect example of this. I will not watch a single episode of Candace Owens. I will not watch a single clip of Candace Owens. I don't care if it comes from her channel or from anybody else's channel. I am not encouraging. Candace Owens will not be playing in my household. She will not be playing in my headphones. She will not be playing in my car. And it's not like I despise Candace Owens. I just don't like her views. All right? That's as far as I go with Candace Owens. But to a lot of you guys that don't like Candace Owens, y'all have a weird way of showing how little you don't like her, because some of you guys still subscribe to her and you be in her comment section constantly. Well, you was wrong here and you was wrong right here, and that don't make no sense, and this is why I don't support you. But you are supporting her by you watching all her episodes, by you commenting in the comment section. You're doing more for someone that you don't like than someone you claim that you like. So what's really going on? But yeah, DJ Academics broke it down. I think hip hop. If you're doing a podcast solely on hip hop, it's struggle city, because hip hop itself, someone had a discussion: is hip hop dead? I don't think hip hop is dead, but I do think hip hop is in trouble. And I think the reason why hip hop is in trouble, because hip hop back in the day, they were the trendsetters. They created trends. Everyone followed behind hip hop. Hollywood welcomed hip hop with open arms, with its music, with its culture, even with their artists. Now, TikTok runs everything. If you don't have you can have a hot song, but if it's not being used on TikTok, it's really not a hot song. All right? So hip hop don't create trends anymore. These new artists don't create trends. Everyone gravitates and associates themselves to TikTok, meaning the artists, and streaming. There's so many distractions for an artist. Instead of an artist to get better, to perfect their craft in the studio, a lot of these artists take shortcuts. Hey, you know what? If I get some clout on Aiden Ross stream, that's going to get me some clout. Hey, if I do a song that have a hook that TikTok can utilize, then hey, I'm gonna be popping. It's not even about the music no more. Okay, hip hop artists, they used to be the trendsetters. Now they're following trends. All right. And thirdly, I mean, the artists are not really making good music. When you think about it, they're not really making good music. They're just making something that hope it gets hooked on social media and people will talk about it. People will utilize the sound, whatever. I think streaming screwed up hip hop. Now more than ever, you don't know what's a real stream and what's been botted. Okay? You don't know what's authentic in hip hop no more, because everyone, puts so much emphasis on streaming numbers. Oh, well, Drake did this, but he was the most streamed artist this month. Well, how much of that is real and how much of that is botted? How much of that is authentic? How much of that is just fake? You don't know with none of these artists, okay? And, the music industry, I don't think hip hop is dead, but I do think hip hop is in trouble. And, DJ Academics talked about it, and it's affecting everybody else that associate themselves with hip hop, including podcasts, including journalists. Now journalists who cover music have to cover other things because hip hop is not the number one song anymore. Everyone's not gravitating to hip hop, So, that's that. But hey, it is what it is. You're not going to change anyone's mind. People going to like who they like, and people that they don't like, they're going to still follow them. They're going to still, be in their comment section. They're going to still watch their content, but they're going to continue not to like them. And it doesn't make any sense. I just think a lot of these viewers, they're just weird. Like, why would you support a content creator you don't like? It makes no sense to me, but hey, that's the way the world works. And that's why you got all this uncertainty with entertainment. You don't know what's really truly a success and what's truly, social media, what's made up or fabricated or whatever. Okay? So, I definitely wanted to talk about that. I think a lot of podcasters are going to be closing their doors. And I just think podcast itself, and I said this in the beginning when podcast was, was blowing up. It's too oversaturated. Just everyone has a podcast. Everyone has a take. And a lot of these takes go viral because it's the wrong take, you know. But hey, it is what it is. There's nothing you can really do about it. I guess if you look at it in the thick of things, it'd be less and less podcasting going on. But I don't think that's going to happen as well. All right. So done talking about that. We're gonna move on to the next topic. This is what I really wanted to talk about. I should have, but I said, I'm gonna save the best for last. To me, the best for last. But before I get into that topic, I first want to say this. I want to appreciate everyone that's been subscribing to me, my day ones, my newcomers. I really do appreciate that. I really do appreciate y'all taking time with the shorts, with the live streams. I'm gonna start back making videos. I don't know if I'm gonna do that challenge I did. I put a challenge on myself a couple of months ago, where I was going to do 30 days of videos. Just every day I'm going to introduce a new video. I don't know if I'm going to do that because I asked YouTube a question on social media, and I said, YouTube, what you think will be more successful as a content creator? Making a video every day may not have the best production, or making one video that, you got the production value, you spending time on production, you're spending time on edits, special effects, things of that nature. And then YouTube replied back, as long as in terms of service, everything, just a generic reply back. But I'm going to get back into doing videos, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing 30 days of videos. I might do one video a month. YouTube recommends you should do 3 videos a day. I'm not doing 3 videos a day. I just don't have time to do 3 videos a day. And I think it's quantity. I think it's quality over quantity. I'd rather do one banging video and put time into production than to do 3 videos unedited. I didn't edit it the way I wanted to edit it, and then here we go. Okay. Okay. So let's get into story time. Oh, and by the way, if you guys like me continuing doing story times, comment in the comment section. If you like it, if there's things that you want me to talk about, put it in the comment section or the community tab. Okay. So I'm going to tell you the time, story time. So I'm going to tell you the time I accidentally found my father's stash when it came to corn. I'm not going to say the P word because it's banned on YouTube. But when I say corn, you know what I really mean. Okay, I found my dad's, accidentally found his stash of corn. Now, bear in mind, all right, so I used to work at this warehouse as well as this grocery store. I had 2 jobs. And the problem with these 2 jobs, they was a little bit too far from where I lived at. But my father told me I could just stay over his house, take like maybe a 3-4 hour nap, and get ready for my next job. Okay, and that was working perfectly for me because the 2 jobs that I was working at, my dad's house was like stuck right dab in the middle of these 2 jobs. So I said, okay, cool, all right. So it was one day, he texted me. He said that, hey, I got something to do. I left the key at under the mat. When you come off your first job, just come on in, make yourself comfortable. He told me he cooked something. I'm going like, hey, free food, a place to crash until my second job. Why not? Okay. So I go to his house, found the key under the mat, unlocked the door, and the first thing I did, turn his TV on. All right. Turn his TV on. But, my dad didn't have cable or satellite. He just had basic channels, which bugged the hell out of me. But normally I would have my tablet or I would just go through my phone, whatever. I was watching the shows on his TV. I think it was some game shows or some judge shows. shows, and I got kind of bored with it. And I said, hey, you know, I wonder if, I noticed he had a VCR. My dad's old school. All right. So he's got a VCR. All right. So I'm looking through his tape collection. It wasn't nothing in the tape, and I was in the living room. Nothing in his tape collection amused me. Nothing. It was just a bunch of old movies, you know, this, that, and the third. All right. So I'm saying to myself, I remember my dad having more tapes in his bedroom. So I went into his bedroom. Now, perfectly be honest with you, I don't like going into people's bedrooms. I don't. I think you invading someone's privacy. But this is my father. He ain't got nothing to hide. It's no big dealio. All right, I'm grown. So he would probably tell me, "Hey, Chris, just go. If you don't like the tape that you see there, go to his, because he had his biggest stash of VCR tapes. All right." So I go in his I go into his bedroom, and I was looking at the videotape. A lot of them were unmarked. I didn't know what was on them. I was really looking for the ones that had either a title or a picture of the movie. So I stumbled across a videotape of, and it had a date on it. I'm like, it's got the date, the day, the year. And that kind of intrigued me. I'm like, man, what's so special about this one? Like, all the other ones are just blank, or they got, words on it or pictures on it of a movie or whatever, or a show, whatever. But this one intrigued me. It's got like a date, a day, and a year. Now, this was dated like 5 years ago. I'm going like, oh, okay, this must be something somewhat new. 5 years ago is new to my father. My father wasn't on time with shows and movies. He would watch him, like Spider-Man. He would watch Spider-Man 5 years later, like Spider-Man Homecoming. He would watch it 5 years later and call me and talk about, hey, did you see Spider-Man Homecoming? Yeah, Dad, that movie came out 5 years ago. And he would be thrilled and excited that he saw Spider-Man Homecoming. All right? Even though it's a 5-year-old movie. That's how my dad operated, okay? He did that with Dave Chappelle. When Dave Chappelle, because, my dad, like I said, my dad couldn't afford cable. But he found a VCA, someone sold him a tape of season 1 of Dave Chappelle. And he said, man, that Dave Chappelle funny as hell. And he's going through all the skits. And I'm going like, yeah, Dad, I saw that skit. It was funny when I saw it, but it's not too much funny now. It's humorous, but, it's old. You dig what I'm saying? But, that's how my dad was, all right? So, like I said, I saw this tape. It had the date, the day, and the year. It was 5 years old, okay? So I said, this got to be intriguing. So I grabbed that tape, and I put it in the VCR, and then I hit play. I'm thinking that the whole time, please don't let this tape screw up. I don't want, because, VCR tapes have a habit of chewing, like some VCRs would chew the tape, and it's hard to get it back into the cartridge. So, that's what I was hoping and praying, that it doesn't break or snap or anything, because then I have to explain it to him like, oh, man, I done messed up one of your tapes, But I play it. And man, at first, it was like a black screen. And it was playing some old music from the 70s. I can still remember the song to this day. And it's like, I want to do something freaky to you. Doom, 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 doom. I want to do something freaky to you. I'm going like, okay, this must be one of them old school movies, gangster movies, because, my dad was on to, he liked Richard Pryor, he liked Superfly, Cooley High, he likes all those old black shows and black movies, All right. He told me that's when black movies and black shows were popping back in the old. He said now it's not like that no more. He's not a big fan of Tyler Perry or these new, Ryan Coogler, or he's not a big fan of them. As of right now, until whenever he sees Sinners, he might have a different opinion. Okay, so basically, the screen is black and you keep hearing this old music. I'm dating the music. I'm thinking the music's like it's in its 60s, late 60s, early 70s, thinking like that. Like when they used to wear bell-bottom pants. And I've seen Good Times before. It had that type of environment in it. So like these two guys, right? And these two guys are like pimps. Okay? So they're talking about the women, these women. They're talking about the women on the street ain't coming with their bread, whatever. All right? And they're talking about they're going to have to put their foot in the girl's ass because she came short with her money. All right? So both of the guys, they was outside, then the scene transformed and them walking into a building. And it's like beautiful girls everywhere. Now, this was, these women had afro, braids. I mean, it was real psychedelic type of old school video. I'm thinking this is like a real movie. I'm sitting on the sofa, thinking, man, this must be like Superfly Part 2. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is this movie. You dig what I'm saying? So he's talking to this girl, talking about she came short with her money. And she said, well, is there anything else I can repay you with? And, I'm thinking, okay, this might be like one of these movies that, they'll show a little quick sex scene, not that much, not that deep. And then they'll just go into another scene. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. All right. And the dude with the afro with the lamb chop sides saying, there's something you can exactly do for me. And he starts zipping down his pants. And this whole man-child came out. I'm like, what type of movie is this? Okay, were they showing this type of movie in the movie theaters, in the 60s and the 70s? And they started, they started having sex. It blew my fucking mind. Like, they having sex. I'm going like, wait a minute. So I'm starting to put, like, back in those times, women, kept their, you can see her whole coochie. Well, what coochie you can barely see it, but she had hair, she didn't shave, okay, down now. All right. So I'm, back in that era, I'm assuming that was the cool thing to do. Leave your hair growing, to each his own. All right. So they up here having sex, and I'm going like, God damn, when they started doing this ish, then I found that the more they kept having sex, I'm going like, okay, this is a porn. This is a porn. But it was made sort of like a cinema movie. These guys had these girls in all types of positions. They had them bending and they had them bending like pretzels, okay? They would, they was doing it all on there. And it was all, I noticed something about porn back then. Oops, I shouldn't say porn. Corn, all right? Back then, they didn't have no multiculturals having, sex with one another. Like, this was all black people. Okay? All black people. It wasn't really no thick women. It wasn't no fat women in there. And I like thick women. I like fat women. But you just didn't see it. It was just they was all carbon copies. They're very slender. The only thing different is their hairstyles. They'll have different hairstyles and stuff like that. But they was doing straight, regular sex. They made regular sex popping back then. See, they wasn't doing all that jumping off the banister on top of some coochie, or, she's bending her legs all the way back to her head. They're not doing nothing. They doing regular regular sex, but they was doing regular sex that was popping back then. All right. So I'm up here going like, God damn. And the thing about it was, corn back then, it wasn't like the corn today. Like corn, like with OnlyFans or with social media, wherever you get your corn from, or the hub, it's like 5-10 minutes the most. That scene itself was a movie itself with today's corn. Today's corn, you probably getting like less than 5 minutes, particularly if you watch it on X. They do miniature videos, like miniature shorts on corn. They'll, whatever. It not this corn. This corn was that one scene alone. I could have sworn it was like 10-20 minutes. I had to fast forward it into the next scene. Okay, next scene is like a bunch of butt naked ass women in a room, and this one guy got lucky and he had sex with all of them. Now I don't know if he had sex with all of them, but there was like fast forwarding it where he would jump on one girl on top of another girl on top of another girl on top of another girl. Look, corn back in the day is very interesting, okay? It was very entertaining. You can watch a two, like most of these things like 40 minutes long. And the thing about it was, my dad corn stash, that tape was littered with corn. Like you couldn't watch all that in one day. So guess what I did? I snatched that VCR tape. I took it to work. I took it to work with me. I had it in my trunk. And I'm at work. I'm still thinking about some of the scenes I saw in this video. I'm thinking to myself, my dad got so many tapes. He don't know that I took that. You dig what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking. All right. He don't know I took that. So I went home and I found out something that it didn't catch my attention at work. I don't have no VCAs, no VHR. Or VCS or whatever you call it. I don't have none of those things. And at that time, they wasn't selling that type of device at Walmart. It's so out of date technology. Okay, I had to go to thrift stores to find a VCR or VHS player, whatever y'all want to call it. All right. And man, I was watching that for a whole almost like 2-3 weeks. You dig? I'm watching it constantly. I don't think I've gotten through the whole tape, but I got through the majority of it, okay? Man, I wish I still had that tape. Now, here's the funny part. My dad would call me, and he would always reference the day that I went to his house when he left the key. And he's going, he would always talk about that day. He would never talk about anything else but that day. And he would beat around the bush, okay? He said, did you turn TV? I said, yeah, I turned TV on. He said, so what would you watch? And I said, I was watching, some game shows, because, you don't have cable or anything. I noticed you had a couple of movies. He said, yeah, movies. Yeah, what did you watch? I'm telling him the movies that I saw that he had. And he said, did you go in my room? I didn't want to tell him I went to his room. So I just said, no, I didn't go in your room. Okay, I lied to my father. Okay, so peep this. Next day, same thing happened. Next week, same thing happened. He had to go somewhere. All right, but see, I still had the VCR tape. It's still in the car because I was planning on giving it back to him. I said, why not? He's not there, so I started watching more of it in the living room. So have you ever fell asleep and you forgot to clean up behind you? That's what I did. All right. So I left the corn tape in his VCR in the living room, and I forgot to put it back into his bedroom. I just left it in there. So when I woke up, I'm putting on my clothes. I'm getting ready for my second job. Time I work half my shift, I realized that I left the corn tape in his VCR in the living room. So I said to myself, you know what? When I leave from this shift, I'm gonna try to come over there. It was like real late at night. I'm gonna call him, see if it's okay if I come over there and crash for a couple of hours. And I did. He said, "Yeah, you can come on over here." So I basically came over there thinking that, oh man, if while he's not watching, I can take the tape out of that corn tape out of the main VCR because he knows he didn't watch it in the living room and then put it in his bedroom. So when he went to the restroom, he said, "How I gotta go use the restroom?" I said that was perfect timing to do this because he was doing a number two. He was taking a deuce. I knew it was gonna be a minute. All right. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, let me turn on the VCR, pop the door, get the tape out, put it in his little stash. So as I turned the VCR on, I popped the door, tape wasn't there. I'm just assuming that he probably saw it in there, took it out, and put it back into his stash. Now I'm thinking, well, maybe, he probably going to blame it on himself, saying, oh man, that tape, that corn tape was in my home the whole time, and I must have watched it in the living room. All right. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping. Okay. He comes out of the restroom. We chopped it up for a little bit. And I noticed during that whole conversation, he never brought up about the VCR, his tape, whatever. So, you know how you have like an understanding, but y'all didn't, really say anything. We just had that little understanding. And we had a little understanding that, hey, I found my corn tape. Everything's good. I'm not even going to ask you, did you even watch it? That's basically how the conversation went, but a little subtle. He wasn't straight to the point about it, okay? Because back then when they were young, watching corn was kind of embarrassing. Now, corn, you watch corn today, it's like regular television. It's no big deal. You might tell your coworker, yeah, I watched this corn tape, so-and-so, so-and-so. It's just like casual conversation. But, back then when he was young, maybe corn was taboo. That's something that you don't really talk about, all right? And from then there on, every time I go to my dad's house, could never find that tape. It's not even in his room. I don't even know what he did with it, okay? Don't even know what he did with it, and I didn't even ask, okay? But, yeah, that's pretty much it. I got all these goddamn, my bad, folks. My bad, fam. Before I get up out of here, I'm gonna read y'all messages. Braxton says, hello. What's up, hello? Sleep Toe says, hi, what's up? How you doing? Daniel says, yeah, I already read that. He said true 2 times. I already read that. I'm sorry what I said. Russ, I don't know what you said. Braxton says, I'm back. Yeah, I'm sorry, people, man. I'm sorry I got y'all messages mad late. I'm sorry. That's on me. But anyway, I'd like to thank everyone that came by and supported the channel, that subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. It's your boy. I'm up out of here. I might come back on live again and chop it up with you guys later on. Okay? So I'm up out of here. I'm gone. Deuces.